Thank you for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. My name is Shanshan Chuan and I. Today, we're going to present a presentation on the joint course development to promote language assessment literacy in TESOL education, a collaborative and ethnography study. So at the beginning of our presentation, we want to acknowledge that the presentation on the course development we developed where we taught this course on the previous course designed by our program coordinator. So in today's presentation, we will follow a traditional structure. So let's first start with the background. So I want to highlight here that assessment is important in language classrooms. So it can monitor learning progress of students and also find their areas of improvement. And also more importantly, assessment can always inform and improve teaching, and teaching can also improve assessment. However, language teachers face challenges such as it's really challenging for them to bridge assessment theory with practice and also how to adapt the practice to their own context. And also, for example, design effective assessment tools for their specific student groups, and also communicate assessment outcomes with different stakeholders. So for example, if you want to communicate the outcomes of assessment to students and to their parents, you apparently need different strategies. So language assessment literacy receiving growing attention in teacher education programs. So let's first look at what is language assessment literacy. It refers to a basic understanding of sound assessment practice and the ability to apply that knowledge to measure language learning in different contexts. So I want to mention the language assessment literacy framework developed by Taylor in 2013. She mentioned 8 different aspects of language assessment literacy, including knowledge of theory, techniques, skills, principles, and concepts, language pedagogy, sociocultural values, local practices, personal beliefs, and score and decision making. And also, she also differentiates the different level of knowledge in those 8 aspects between different stakeholder groups. So as you can see the figure I'm showing on the presentation slides, this is the particular requirements for language teachers. So for language teachers, they need to have a really strong language pedagogy and also particularly focus on the local practice, personal beliefs, sociocultural values, and technical skills. So with this understanding, we look at the previous research on pre-service teachers' language literacy, assessment literacy, and most of the research, they look at whether or not pre-service teacher or in-service teacher have LAL and what are their needs. So for example, some of their needs are efficient opportunities to enhance their LAL in teacher education program, and they need much more information to fully contextualize assessment principles into their own assessment practices. And also some of them found that after taking the assessment course, pre-service teachers still lack of confidence and needs to a further understanding. So to address these needs, prior research also has examined the development of pre-service teachers' LALs through collaborations and interactions among different stakeholder groups. For example, they invite in-service teacher, EFL, pre-service EFL teachers, and also experts in language assessment. They communicate their needs and also offering helps to develop their LAL. To responding to the call for research in diverse contexts and more research investigating how LL is developed. So in this study, we try to investigate how LL educators co-developed and co-taught a grade level language assessment course in a Canadian TESOL education program. In this presentation, we try to answer two research questions. First, how do two teacher-educator collaborate to promote Chinese pre-service teachers LAL through course delivery? And second, what similarities and differences emerge in connecting local needs with international frameworks? So next, my co-presenter, Chuan, will introduce the methodology.
All right, thank you, Shanshan. And for this study, we adopted collaborative autoethnography. So CAE allows us to explore our own lived experiences through collective reflection and dialogue. It combines the personal, introspective aspects of autoethnography with the collaborative process of sharing, comparing, and interpreting experiences among multiple researchers. For this research, is two of us. In our context, the study took place within a graduate course called Second Language Assessment. And this course focuses on both the theory and practice of language assessment with an emphasis on classroom-based assessment and LAL. The research team, included us, the two instructors, we were third-year PhD candidates, and both of us are international students from China. And the students in this course also shared a similar linguistic and cultural background. They were all originally from China and bilingual in Mandarin and English. Okay, next slide, please. So for our collaborative autoethnographic study, we collected a range of data sources to capture both the instructional context and our reflective processes. And here we also want to thank our course coordinator, Dr. Suvorov, a contribution for the curriculum artifacts we built on his syllabus and also assessment criteria and other resources, and we revised based on that. And then we also collected data about our classroom activities and our individual narratives, transcribed the recordings of our joint planning and the reflection sessions. And for data analysis, we had an iterative process. We started with individual reflection and narrative construction, and then we collaboratively have dialogue about what kind of themes and commonalities we shared and some differences. And then finally, we co-construct themes through this iterative discussion, and then reviewing back and forth the data, including narratives, transcripts, and artifacts. And next slides, please. Here are the findings. So our first research question is, how do two teacher educators collaborate to promote pre-service teachers LAL through this course delivery? So our first theme is the collaboration as reciprocal professional learning, and ongoing dialogue and reflective debriefs enabled us to learn from each other's pedagogical orientations and shaping instructional choices and enhancing our professional growth. And later we will share aspects from each of us. And first, I will share my takeaway from the dialogue. Next slide, please. And here you can see I shared the screenshot of a critical discussion in my own teaching. So as we prepared lessons together, we frequently reflected on what assessment means in the context of second language education. Through these conversations, a series of critical discussions naturally emerged. These questions capture the issues we found meaningful and sometimes most challenging in learning. For instance, we asked, we questioned whether all formal assessments are tests and brainstormed examples of assessment practices that go beyond the traditional testing. Another recurring question was whether an assessment instrument can be both formative and summative, and what might look like in real classroom contexts. So in summary, these questions emerged from our collaborative planning discussions, highlighting how reflective dialogue can deepen our teaching. And next slide. So we also discussed how we can elaborate construct, which is a very critical idea for language assessment based on Shanshan's previous teaching experience. And also we further discussed the differences of construct between traditional assessment and alternative assessment. And that's why I made this slide to distinguish the differences and to clearly demonstrate the ideas for the students. Okay, next slide, please. And we also discuss how we can elaborate difficult concepts. And Shanshan's comments, Shanshan's comments inspired me to develop this slide to demonstrate the validity is about the score, not the test itself. So this visual cue really helped my students to understand this difficult concept very easily. And next slide. And as we prepare the lesson, we also discussed our own assessment philosophies. And this discussions made me realize that reflecting on grading philosophy is both critical and beneficial. And this realization inspired me that I need to design an activity that encourage my students to reflect on their own grading philosophies. And this activity, interestingly, later evolved into a debate and allowing students to explore what values are prioritized in assessment and how these values are shaped by social, cultural, and political contexts and who are potentially benefited or marginalized. And next slide. And Shanshan will talk about this.
Yeah. So for our second dialogue, this is always the area of improvement for myself. So I always want to increase student engagement in my course. And this is what I learned from Chuan's course design. So this is just an example for the first course. Because my students, they're already familiar with each other, but I'm not familiar with them. So I designed this introduction kind of activity or game. So it's called Think, Sign, and Report. I particularly designed 4 statements, and I put them on the 4 corners of the room and asked them to rate those signs and sign their names if this statement applies to them. So they will have opportunities to walk around the room. And then this is also a good opportunity for me to have a diagnosis understanding of their language assessment experience. So instead of using those traditional self-introduction, this is the way I try to connect them with language assessment.
Okay, so our second theme, also responding to the second research question, is about our similarities in our shared commons in curriculum design. We intentionally selected readings linking pre-service teachers, home contexts with Canadian international standards, and design tasks that ask them to analyze international language tests while creating contextualized tools. Next slide. Again, this is our syllabus learning objectives, which share the same. We basically use the same learning objectives, of course, built on previous course instructors' syllabus. And this also reflect Taylor's, if you remember, Shanshan talked about Taylor's framework, and these objectives also reflect many aspects of Taylor's framework. And next slide. And then this is an example of a reading materials, and which you can see we have included readings in terms of Chinese context to reflect the students' home countries and cultural contexts. And also we have Canadian local contexts, and we also have international standards. Next slide, please. And for our assignment, also the first assignment is to analyze the international standardized tests, and the second assignment is to develop the students' own classroom-based assessment. This also connect students' home, local, and international contexts. Okay, so the next the third theme is about our divergent pedagogical pathways. While working towards shared goals, we implemented distinct teaching approaches. For example, so Shanshan emphasizes teacher-led critical discussions, while I favor student-centered activities. So we can see we basically follow the same order from class 1 to 4. From class 5, our syllabus can be a little bit different. So I would highlight alternative assessment and promote self-regulated learning and add peer evaluation in grading for the student-led discussions. Okay, next slide, please. And then for the differences, we can see there are nuances in our assignment design. So we had I would have some group work of a poster presentation while Shanshan asked the students to design the poster and submit it to her. So there are other nuances in our assessment design. Okay, next slide, please. So this is also some structural differences in our teaching. So I'm going to talk about my design. So basically, in many of my sessions, I would start with an entry point for students to self-reflect on their prior experiences through creating some artifact and co-learning and assessment for learning. And then we will have some critical thinking and creativity through case study or redesign lesson plan or assessment and make connections. And Shanshan, do you want to talk about your design?
Yes, so I'm well aware of that. For some really difficult concepts, it's hard for them to understand by themselves. So I kind of give a balanced teacher's lecture, and then give a student-centered activities, student presentations, and student-led discussion. And also, one thing I want to mention in my courses that I keep communicate with my students, and I understand that they are particularly interested in some of the topics in language assessment. So I invite some of my colleagues who are, for example, they are good at listening anxiety, or there's one of my colleagues talk about the language testing policy. So we had such guest lectures, so students can have different, perspectives of those issues in language assessment. And yeah.
Okay, and this slide shows an example of our lesson plan. So here we have the entry point, co-learning, critical thinking, and creativity. When I teach, this shows how I taught 5 principles. And also this is Shanshan's example. I know we don't have a lot of time for this, so we'll just continue with the next slide. So Shanshan, would you like to?
Yes. So for discussion, based on our presentation, you can see that this course was designed and co-taught to incorporate the 8 aspects of Taylor's language assessment literacy framework, and also to address those challenges in bridging theories with local practices. We designed lots of student-centered activities. For example, for the last assignment, we asked students to design a classroom-based assessment that fit their own context. And also we select different relevant course materials. And also, pre-service teachers, they embrace many opportunities to design contextualized assessment to classroom-based assessment. And they'll also have opportunities to analyze standardized tests critically in their own context. And lastly, we want to acknowledge that while the learning outcomes were similar between the 2 instructors, we use different approaches to teach these LAL courses, which may lead to distinct trajectories for per-service teachers' development in LAL.
Okay, I'm going to quickly summarize the study. So pedagogically, we believe our collaborative course design can help bridge global assessment frameworks with local pedagogical needs. And specifically, we want to highlight So for future TESOL programs, we encourage co-teaching, translanguaging, and contextualization, flexibility, and reflexivity, as well as emphasize assessment as and for learning and curriculum co-construction. And theoretically, we highlight the collaborative and contextual nature of language assessment to literacy development. And we hope our study can extend Taylor's LAL framework by introducing the idea of collaborative competence, positioning LAL as a socially mediated dialogic process. And also methodologically, we want to highlight the potential of collaborative autoethnography as a powerful approach to explore our educator reflexivity, identity, and professional growth with language teacher education. And that's all. Thank you so much for your listening, and we'll welcome some questions and comments.